Hi, and welcome back to the Cheeky Crypto podcast with myself, Nick, the host. Just messing. That's
The
usually
hostess
Mikey's
with
job.
the mostest.
Hey, joined by a very special guest, Cheeky Chris.
The special guest.
And obviously the resident here, JB. Welcome to the Cheeky podcast. If you found this useful, informative, maybe even entertaining at times, smash that like button. We all appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, give us a follow, subscribe. Make sure you tap the bell and stay up to date with all the video content that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Chris, what are we discussing today?
Well, I think we're going to discuss a little bit of everything. But I really want to start with something probably more engaging than just like your traditional headlines. And that is, I guess, first question for everybody. Will a cryptocurrency flip Bitcoin? Like, I've got some different ways of asking very similar questions, but we'll start here. And do let us know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on these 3 or 4 questions. So first of all, I guess over to you, JB. Do you think a cryptocurrency is likely to flip Bitcoin in the next 5 or so years?
So yeah, what's going on, guys? Glad to be back on. That is a horrible question to ask to start off a podcast, but we'll try my best to answer it. No, I do not feel anything anytime soon will flip Bitcoin in terms of value. Popularity, yes, I think there's going to be a vast amount that will be a lot more popular, more use for us. Obviously, there's a lot of cryptos right now that I think everybody would rather hold opposed to Bitcoin. But in terms of physical value, I just find it so hard to see. I mean, even when we're sitting right now, we're at 16,900. There's nothing even close to it, so it's hard to even imagine that happening. But obviously, we do see a lot of things right now. Utility for a lot of tokens is changing. Never say never. I'd like to see it. I'd like to be holding the one that does as well. I think we all would. Everybody watching, listening, and everybody here, I think every single one of us would like to know what you guys are going to pump so high that's going to flip Bitcoin. I think we all want to get involved in that. How do you feel about it, Nick?
Yeah, at some point, something will. It's just a simple calculation between, supply and demand, right? So if anyone can crack the code on figuring out what the right supply would be and the right amount of demand and liquidity to do it, yeah, you could flip Bitcoin easy enough in terms of market cap. Obviously, the question really truly becomes, is there something that's going to sustain or have sustainable growth enough to remain above Bitcoin? Now, and I don't think there's going to be any time soon that will happen, but there is, of course, a limit to how much Bitcoin can, essentially reach. There's a limit to these things. So yeah, I think at some point in the future, Bitcoin will not be number one, just simply because once it all gets mined and it all gets purchased up by certain individuals and institutional players and whale players, there's going to be very little actually out there for people to kind of transact on. Essentially, I think that's where it will end up heading. It'll kind of become quite stagnant. It will reach the peak of its elasticity, and that'll be that. And I think something else will just naturally kind of just take its spot, but doesn't mean or we should take away from its kind of value being locked there. Essentially, I think in time it will perform, as kind of expected as a store of value. What's your thoughts, Chris? You've asked the question. It's a leading question. Go for it.
Look, it's a leading question, but before I give my answer, I'm just going to go back to something that you touched on, which was supply. So it leads me into the next question, right? And you're right, it is kind of leading. But Ethereum, right? So Ethereum has recently changed its tokenomics, really, in the way that it's moved from proof of work to proof of stake. Potentially over time, it's going to have a slower release than, say, Bitcoin, for example. So leading into the next question, do you think that ETH, your favorite project in all of the world, and everybody at home knows it, could possibly flip Bitcoin? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it will, because I think the amount of time that it would take in order to flip Bitcoin, I think the competitor of Ethereum will overtake it. So I don't think Ethereum will be what flips Bitcoin. If Bitcoin gets flipped, it'll be by something else.
Do you think it could be flipped by multiple projects then? Is that something that you could see happening?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Over time, like you're talking a very long time in the future. But there's like a peak to how high this thing could go. until it gets very stagnant. You already see diminishing gains year or bull run after bull run after bull run, right? You can see it slowing down in its growth. And, you know, many do slow down, but the question just becomes what's going to keep that pace of growth to it? What is trying to evolve with the times, right? And I think there's going to be many that eventually will flip. That, you know, these top 10 projects, essentially, some of them will just kind of slow down, become very stagnant.
Yeah, okay. I kind of see where you're going with that. What about yourself, JB? What's your thoughts?
I think there's many projects out there that I can see flipping Ethereum. Obviously, they'll flip Ethereum easier than they'll flip the likes of Bitcoin. We could sit here and name lots off. Whether it's relevant to even start mentioning these projects right now, who knows? Obviously, we see good news about the likes of 𝗕𝗚, 𝗕𝗏, the list goes on. So I think it's probably more relevant to say, is anything going to flip ETH, which I think is probably easy to do. ETH, I don't like ETH as a project. Solely the fees that ETH has in its chain itself, I just don't like. It's just too dear a project. Unfortunately, I do use ETH quite a lot, as I've said many times. I would like to see Ethereum being a lot cheaper, but who knows in the future? Yeah, there's some projects in the top 10, there's maybe some projects in the top 100 and beyond that could do better than the likes of Ethereum. I'd like to see the time happen. I'd like to not think we were still in the space at the time as well, that we do see this kind of thing happen. The likes of Bitcoin's not #1, Ethereum's not in the top 5. I think it'd be very exciting to see.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a world that we could be living in the future. I think that would be sort of aligned with what we saw with the .com sort of era of new projects or companies, and you know, switching, you know, by market cap. We saw this, and I think it's going to be no different with crypto. I think that, you know, ETH is you know, has the potential to flip Bitcoin in the future. I do think that Bitcoin's growth will slow down, whilst I believe ETH will increase with the new form of tokenomics that they've got. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm an ETH lover, right? I'm not a lover of ETH.
You're a maxi by the sounds of it now, Chris.
I'm no maxi. I am, you know, I guess I believe in other projects that have better technology than Ethereum, and I think they will also flip both Ethereum and Bitcoin in the future. We're not talking about any time soon, but I do think layer 2s, and when we said this before, the likes of Polygon, lots of I guess projects porting over to Polygon, not only projects but real world companies as well, also utilizing Polygon. And I do think that's where we're going to see a lot of the growth through Ethereum, is the layer 2 project, so the likes of Polygon, 𝗕𝗏, and other layer 2s. And if you want to think, like, you know, further ahead, there's layer 2s not just on Ethereum but also on other, you know, chains like Cardano, for example. And we've mentioned a few of those over, you know, the previous few weeks. And I think that, you know, layer 2s on the likes of Cardano and other platforms are also going to be ones to look at, but perhaps not for the next cycle. So Nick, anything in the news that kind of stood out to you?
I mean, there's a few things kind of standing out. We obviously saw some news about MasterCard and stuff like that, but I don't think that's overly new at this point. I think you know, we've seen that a fair bit already. We did see that the Ferrari have cut ties with their crypto sponsor. We saw that in the news as well. Again, not overly surprising that some of these companies and organizations are looking to kind of distance themselves from crypto right now. So I'm not overly shocked and surprised by that. We'll probably see a fair few more as well, where those sponsorships are probably being distanced a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's something that could happen. What about yourself, JB? Anything that stands out to you in the news?
I'll keep it with F1 just now. Obviously, Crypto.com are a huge partner with F1, so I've spoken about this a few times. I'm a big fan of the Formula One. Obviously, we've seen the likes in the Miami Grand Prix, the Las Vegas Grand Prix are heavily backed by crypto firms. We have concerns about some of these firms that are backing them. Obviously, FTX, massive backer within Formula One industry, and we've seen FTX collapse. We've got issues with a few others right now, so I do think it's maybe a bit of an iffy time right now in the Formula One industry that, you know, there's a lot of potential future funding issues going to come up on the horizon here. So yeah, pay attention to that if that is something you are involved with. A news article I thought was quite interesting to read through was, surprise, surprise, about Charles Hoskinson and his preventative healthcare clinic will now accept 𝗕𝗓 as payment for treatments, which I thought was very exciting. It's kind of one of the first things we've seen in the space of sorts. So as we touched on before the podcast there, Charles's father is a doctor, his brother's also a doctor, and it's basically a family practice that they will be starting up. So for all likes of treatments, where was it they said it was? Wyoming. And USA. So for all the treatments, everything else that we ran through the clinic, you will be able to pay with 𝗕𝗓, which I thought was super exciting. And I'll look forward to seeing more of that happen all around the world. It'd be great over here. I'd love to see it happen too.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's the second project that I'm aware of that has kind of gone into that healthcare sector, one being 𝗕𝗓𝗪. Now we've got Cardano, two projects that we're fond of. I think the 𝗕𝗓 side of things with Midnight and the healthcare aspect of things, being able to mask, unmask, is something that's going to be really, really interesting to see. What are your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, I think it's a great step forward in kind of getting that integration with the kind of general public. And there is very a few kind of, I guess, industries where you can introduce cryptocurrency at a true mass level, right? And healthcare is definitely going to be one of them.
But the mass adoption we could see off the back of this is a game changer. In my eyes, it's a game changer for our space. To see mass adoption, which could obviously go at a global scale here, if the likes of 𝗕𝗓, there will be more, 𝗕𝗓𝗪 can physically start using that to pay for your treatments. If we can see more of that start to happen, you know, we can see what we spoke about for so long, a boom happen in this space, and I'm excited to see it. Mass adoption, public adoption. You might even get to a point here that people are paying with this and they don't even know what it is that they have. If that makes sense to you, you know, people could somehow hold 𝗕𝗓, not know what it is they're holding, and actually be using it to pay for treatments, and not actually have any concept of the idea that they're holding a cryptocurrency, or they may hold it, they don't have an idea what it is, they just know it's cheaper, potentially cheaper to use that to pay for their treatments than it is to use the dollar, the pound, whatever it is they may be using.
Yeah, it kind of rolls into something else I've been reading about, which was, you know, banks and CBDCs looking to set up crypto related wallets that, you know, all these other chains can port into, which is really interesting stuff, seeing that, you know, some of these projects already put themselves forward for it. So yeah, I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that all evolves.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's only a matter of time until we see global adoption of crypto. It's, you guys have spoken about this for so long now. Obviously, we the listeners, I'm categorizing myself as one of the listeners, as obviously I've came into this space and joined your team. You guys have spoken about for so long that mass adoption is on the horizon. This is the next iteration of money. It's the next iteration of the internet, everything. This is the future of what we are sitting in right now, and mass adoption is going to be a wonderful thing, and I cannot wait to see it happen.
Yeah, I think we're not that far out. I think we've got to shake out a few more bad actors, get through a recession, and I think then we're going to start to see that mass adoption really start to take hold alongside with the regulation. So does bring me on to something that is not really crypto related, but, you know, will have an impact on the market, and that is the property market. Obviously, Blackstone have come out and said that they've reached their quota for withdrawals, which is a new twist on basically saying you haven't got the liquidity to pay out investors. And this for me is definitely a sign of the fact that, you know, asset managers in real estate are really starting to have a tough time. You know, you can't really sell property that easily these days at the moment with everything that's happening, you know, with the interest rates, cost of living, lots of I guess retailer, you know, you go to like estate agents and stuff like this, they're pretty much telling you that their phones are not ringing, and it's really quiet. Everything's starting to slow down. So basically they don't have liquidity, very much like some of the exchanges that we've seen fail But what they're doing is they're actually slowing down redemptions at the moment. But this is a sign of what I feel is to still come. The property market took like 5 years before it bottomed out in the last recession. So just be mindful of this. You know, in 6 months' time, it's probably still not the absolute best time to be buying a property. It's probably a few years out. But, you know, these are the things that we're kind of talking about and monitoring when we're saying that we don't think the bottom is in for crypto. Nick, what's your thoughts on, I guess, the macro sort of landscape and cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I think property market at the moment has been artificially held up. Specifically here in the UK, right? We have a lot of kind of schemes to kind of try to help people onto the ladder, right?
Well, it's the
help to buy,
which is really the help to sell, right?
Help to sell, because
that's really what it is.
Yeah, for those who are unfamiliar, essentially you get a 20% loan from the government, right? That's interest free for a few years, so then you start paying an interest on it, and it starts off 1% above the base rate, and then every year it increases 1% above the base rate. It's only so many years you're going to be able to sustain doing that, right? And obviously this kicks in, I think, after 5 years of basically taking out the loan. So it helps you get onto the property ladder, but essentially all it really does is help you sell your property later on because you can't afford your repayment.
Well, it really helps, right? If we really start up, you know, and look at this scheme a little bit closer, it actually helps the person that built the home and is sell it initially, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty much what the scheme is. It's not a help.
Well, they
to
actually
buy.
jack the price up as well, right?
Yeah,
so they push the price up a little bit because, you know, they're getting a loan from the government, so, you know, you can do it that way. So that the builders are basically able to charge a premium on it. The banks are like, happy days, not a problem. We'll lend you, you know, 80% of the value, or take the 20% from elsewhere. You provide a 5% deposit, and so forth. Now, these particular schemes are okay if you kind of you know the fine print and you know how to kind of deal with it and kind of, you know, pay off that loan ASAP and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't know and you don't follow the details of it, it's actually quite difficult. And I can go into a lot of details because I actually did this once upon a time, right? So I know the ins and the outs of it. And it isn't exactly easy. So once you kind of go through the experience of it, it's just, yeah, it's actually opens your eyes to the understanding that the market itself has been propped up for quite a few years. And well, the help to buy schemes come to a bit of a close, and it's time to maybe redeem, right? A few years have passed. Everyone's going to be, or people who've taken out those positions are now starting to get into the repayment of those loans. And well, that's an uncomfortable time right now in the bigger economic climate. Couple that with help to buy loan repayments, or those people who were furloughed and, you know, had their stimulant checks, right, in the US, right? You know, using that money to maybe as a deposit on a house that they couldn't afford, right? Because they had extra income, then maybe they were working and also getting their payments. And I saw a lot of this in 2020 into 2021, where a lot of people were going in getting mortgages for payments that they could just about barely afford, just about. Now, of course, we enter into the bear market kind of territory in 2022 and 2023. Fixed term mortgages start to come to a bit of a close and interest rates have gone up. Can they repay their mortgage? You know, and so forth. So I think there's a huge thing with property just generally, and everything that's going on in China with, you know, people just not wanting to pay the mortgages and properties not getting built and all that kind of nonsense, right? Every little part of the world has something going on in terms of property, and it's like on a knife edge, just waiting to go.
Yeah, and we're also seeing, you know, watches, the watch industry, you know, watches are losing up to like 15, 16, some even 17% in value since their all-time high. I think Rolex is down 12%. So, you know, look, I think this stuff is really interesting. We need to monitor it. What's your thoughts, JB?
I've got personal experience right there on the mortgage front. My wife and I, we were exploring buying a new build last year. So the mortgage that we were offered was around about 2.7%, really good deal. All the rest of it, we were quite happy with it. The housing estate fell through due to the buildings that were around it were listed. So there was a technicality and all the housing build it fell through. So obviously we lost out buying the new build. Since then, it has been redeveloped and the housing is now going ahead. The houses are getting built. We went on the waiting list, we got approved, checked again for a mortgage, and it's came back at 9.1%.
Yep.
Now, it's the exact same mortgage, the exact same house, 7% difference in the mortgage. Ain't happening. Not buying a mortgage at that kind of price. I'll happily sit on the sidelines, stay in the house I'm in, do a bit of work, and have more money in my pocket.
Yeah, and I think that's, when there's so many opportunities on the horizon, it's probably the best move. Obviously, not financial advice, just my opinion, but it took a while last time for the prices to really subside massively. And obviously we've talked about crypto to a point, in the respect that we've got exchanges that we believe are likely to still fail, and I think that'll lead us into probably the next thing that I want to highlight, and that is that whales are betting on Ethereum to plunge to $400 this summer, Nick. I won't get into the full article, but there's a lot of individuals with heavy amounts of Ethereum potentially believing that it can go down as low as $400. So Nick, what are your thoughts on Ethereum hitting those levels?
That's too optimistic. I don't think it would go down as low as $400, but I have it mapped out between 500 and 700. So it's right in line with what I've been talking about for months when it comes to Ethereum. And the issue, I don't think a lot of people are really willing to acknowledge, is that if we do this and we do go down this low with Ethereum, there is no new all-time high for years. It has to take a long time to correct up and drop back down before it'll even go up into a new all-time high. So I don't buy Ethereum for investing in. I just don't think it's worth the risk and the exposure. I said the same thing about a few other cryptocurrencies recently on the main channel, where their structures are indicating, impulsive structure down, and basically could span multiple years, just like Ethereum. And it's not worth the risk to be exposed to something that is indicating to us a move to the downside like that.
What are your thoughts, JB?
So a few months back, I'm talking maybe 6 months back, Nick asked on one of the Twitch streams in the morning, what our predictions were for Ethereum's bottom and Bitcoin's bottom, whatever else. And I did say between $300 and $500. So I'm happy to see whales are potentially talking between $300 and $500, which obviously 400 slap bang in the middle. No rhyme, no reason behind it. It was just the target I had in head at the time. At that point, I had very limited knowledge of L8 Wave. Knowledge is now expanding. I'm obviously making a conscious effort to improve myself this year and continuing to do so far. So I would like to see it that high, but I am also of the sentiment that the next bull run, a lot of projects will not see an all-time high. I do feel that the next bull run won't be... Now, this isn't to incite fear or anything. This is just purely my feelings on it. I feel a lot of projects in the next bull run won't see an all-time high. Pass, we'll have another bear market. Then the next bull run will be the one that will obviously see the best gains on. That's just purely my feelings on it. There's no logical, no explanation right now behind it. It's just the way I can kind of see things going with the way the world is right now. We are so close to the bottom of the current bear market. I just think there's a lot more stuff to play out. So 400, that is very low. It's going to take a long way for us to get to $400 on Ethereum right now. We're at 1,275, there or thereabout. For that to drop to 400, something massive has to happen. We know that. It'd be very optimistic, as Nick said, to get us there.
Yeah, I think it would take a fair amount of time to get down to those levels as well. But I guess moving swiftly on, our friend Jim Cramer, he expects the SEC to do a roundup of uncompliant crypto firms, urges investors to get out now. Now, if there was ever a sign to say, get into crypto, Jim's just given it to us. Nick, what's your thoughts?
Non-compliant is my thoughts. There's some kind of compliance that they should be adhering to.
Yeah, I mean, like
from the SEC here. The SEC are the people that can't make a decision, right?
The SEC, the guys that have given everybody the fantastic guidelines and the sandbox in which to operate in. Yeah, the uncompliant ones. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Good at picking up on that.
Yeah,
I like
the
it.
non-compliant. So the SEC are saying they're looking for non-compliant whilst not giving them the guidance on what is compliant. Got it. Yeah, I think that's going to happen. It's the SEC. It's going to happen.
Of course it is. They're just going to go after anyone they can get money out of. I mean, look at BlockFi, right? And I know I keep, highlighting it. I keep highlighting it because they should be writing off that loan if they were to stick with their actual mission statement, of protecting investors and having a level playing field. That's not the terminology they use, by the way, but that's pretty much how I interpret it. They would write off that fine that the company's now bankrupt and they're ahead of investors to get their money for that fine. Like, that's not protecting anybody apart from yourselves. So I'm going to keep flagging it until they remove it and they write that off, which is never going to happen. But Gary, you're a monster.
So obviously, one thing I'll quickly run by you guys, we've seen a couple of things coming out here about the SEC potentially going to chase CZ and Binance. What's the thoughts behind this? Have you got any feelings around it?
I mean, it feels like there's a big agenda against Binance. I think what's really happening is you've got Circle and you've got Tether, and there's a power struggle, in my opinion, between these two companies, stablecoin companies. You got the Circle side, which has got big backers in the US, and then you've got the Tether side, which has got big backers outside of the US. And I think what you're seeing is you're just seeing Circle and Tether doing very similar things. The companies around them are doing very similar things. And Circle, I say Circle, it's not really Circle that have been caught out, but companies in that group, if you had gangs, the Circle gang, FTX was part of that. They moved over, right? And they were becoming part of the Circle gang, right? And they got caught out. Now, I'm not suggesting that the other side is any better, but the other side hasn't been caught out. And I think there's just this agenda to go, oh, don't worry about FTX, Circle gang. Tether are bad and Binance are bad because they're part of the Tether gang. And I think it's really just that's going on. And I think a lot of it is not, I guess there's no smoke without fire, right? But at the same time, I think you need to know when when to take that L. I don't know what your thoughts are, Nick.
Yeah, like I don't think the US really will be able to. I mean, what would Binance say? All right, we'll just forget about you, US, this folk, and maybe move on, or do you think they will bend over backwards to try to facilitate the US? I think the world's a big place, and
yeah, I think you're right. The world is a big place, and the US is only a small part of the world. I think people seem to forget this, but they are, I guess they're
a huge chunk of the crypto space. Don't get me wrong, but in a growing world where crypto is becoming ever more popular, the US just seem to be wanting to really harm themselves in the bigger picture.
Well, it's a lot about control, isn't it? I feel like they're trying to control the narrative, control where the flows of money go, and there's big companies behind it, your BlackRock, your Goldman Sachs, and they have a history of being able to control the narrative, and this is why you have to kind of really sort of dig deep. And the one thing that crypto has got, blockchain technology has got, is it's got the transparency of on chain, right, where you can actually go and you can kind of get not the full picture, but you can get enough of the picture to really understand what is going on at points. What's your thoughts, JB?
Yeah, I've got a few things going around my head right now, so I kind of zoned out. The CZ and Binance, obviously, we know that they are leading the market. They are I think they have an 80% market hold over crypto for investors and everything else. The SEC maybe targeting Binance to try and make a stamp on what's going on, to try and rule in what is they're doing as the regulators of the space. They're doing an absolutely awful job. We've covered this many times. Let's say they lose a case against Ripple, have they really got a leg to stand on in this space anymore?
I mean, my stance is that they should go hand in their passes right now, and you know, somebody should be taking the lead on, you know, getting new leadership in the SEC and some of the other regulators, and actually regulate this space. I did see like Gary's come out and he said, you know, no new regulation for crypto right now, and it's not required. It's not required for me to give you what you need, because I can't then fine you when you don't deliver what you didn't know you needed to deliver, or what, you know, framework you needed to be operating in. But yeah, I kind of feel that it's they've done a terrible job, and I think they should be embarrassed. You know, every time that they go out and somebody says, "Oh, hi, Gary," he should be embarrassed. I think he's done a terrible job. It's just my opinion. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would align with it, but you guys let me know in the comments below.
Yeah, but obviously we've seen it as well with the likes of the guys that are leaving inside of the SEC, that he's then calling them out, saying how good the job they've done, how great they were when they were here. You've made a mockery of things that you've been trying to achieve. There's nothing that I can pull out right now that say this is what the SEC have done really, really well. It really helped the space that we're in, helped the crypto companies, helped investors. There's nothing I could pull up right now and say that look how good a job they've done for this space. Yet Gary Gensler feels the necessary to come out and say, look how good these guys have done their job.
Yeah, I think that's a clippable moment there for Keith. I think Keith should be clipping the moment where we asked the SEC, we challenged the SEC to actually, you know, transcribe some of the big achievements that they've managed in 2022 when it comes to cryptocurrency. I mean, it should be an easy thing to do. I mean, like JB, you could write down your biggest achievements, you know, in 2022. I'm sure Nick could. I know I could. So why can't the SEC? Gary, get on it. Yeah, we really want to see it, because like I can be very critical, and I can tell you where you've let us all down.
It's hard to write down your greatest achievements when you don't have any, Chris.
Yeah, you're looking at it all wrong. Different lens, guys. They've done a fantastic job of delaying the Ripple and SEC case. I mean, and a round of applause to those guys. I mean, they've really made a good show of it, displaying how many times they have to redo documents and, you know, put that brief in on time, and, you know, provide documents as directed by the judge on time, right? And not kind of quibble about these things. They've done a fantastic job, Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, is that just the lawyers or is that the SEC?
Well, they're SEC lawyers. I mean, you know, people at the top will take credit.
They will. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, because we're getting into that time now where we start thinking about tax, that evil, dark word, tax. Romania carries out raids as part of crypto tax evasion probe. Bit extreme. Why not send a letter? What are your thoughts, Nick?
I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to have to go and hide my ledger somewhere else.
Exactly. What are you going to do? What ledger?
What ledger? I'm going to have to start figuring out my operating system on this computer and storing it elsewhere.
That ledger that fell in the sea as you were on a yacht, Nick. That ledger.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, you lost all
ledger
your crypto.
stacks. It's still on order, guys. There's no crypto here.
Exactly.
It's on back order.
Yeah. Probe. Love that. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Why not send a letter? Why not? Why go to the extreme of raids?
Well, they got to spend the tax money that they're getting. That's how I figure.
Well, they haven't got it.
They haven't got it yet, so they need to pay for the people that they're raiding, right? So they're going to have to. Maybe it's self-employment. Could be self-employment, and these people are raiding to get their salaries. You never know.
Yeah, look, I think it's just a scare tactic myself. I mean, like, a letter is sufficient. Chris, you owe this amount of tax. Pay it today. JB, jokes aside, what are your thoughts?
Romania loves a raid. We've seen Romania having a nice few raids recently. Andrew Tate and co. Yeah, I'm not going to say any more on that one. Nah, they could have sent a letter. Why not send a letter? Or are they doing it just to show, look what we can do? This is how much money we've got. We need to get rid of all this money right now, guys. Yeah, absolutely unnecessary to carry out raids for
Yeah.
tax purposes.
Yeah, it's unreal. I kind of feel like it's right. We should, people are starting to think about tax. We're raiding people here, there, and everywhere. Like
Maybe they sent a letter. Maybe that one letter they sent just got lost in the post.
The dog ate it.
Dog ate it. That's it. That's the
Dog
excuse
ate
we'll
it.
go with that one.
yeah. It's difficult when you don't have a dog, though, Nick. It's one of those, isn't it? But yeah, look,
you're giving too much credit if they'll see through that.
Yeah, exactly. This is why we use Coinly. And, jokes aside, there is an affiliate link down below. If you are considering looking at your tax, Coinly do a fantastic job. This means that you won't have Romanian police if you're in Romania on your doorstep if you fail to obviously pay your tax. So yeah.
In all seriousness, though, we do need to get around to the point now. We start looking at our taxes, and we're going to be doing capital gains returns, etc. Start looking into this, guys. We've spoken about this before. We're going to try and cover it on here. Give a bit of help around how to look at it. Not tell you how to do it, but maybe an insight as to how to go about looking into it.
Yeah, and I think all seriousness, jokes aside, there is a real reason why I brought up the tax aspect of things more than the fact that Romania are doing raids, which was just my sense of humor sort of coming to the forefront. It is time to start looking at it. And when I say looking at it, not necessarily that your tax is due right now, but there are fantastic potential upcoming opportunities to reduce that capital gains tax. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Nick?
Exactly that. If you've been doing the bear market right, guys, this is the point where you cash in on paying capital gains tax. Okay, so if we've done the bear market correctly and we have bigger positions in, let's say, Cardano, you've been buying and selling, you've got more ADA now than you had at the beginning of the bear market, but technically you've lost money by buying and selling and buying and selling and buying and selling, then, well, essentially, this is where you book those losses. You book those losses, carry them through to the next tax year, and hopefully there's a bull market where you can offset your capital gains with the losses that you made in the bear market. Now is the time to make sure that you're doing it right.
Yeah, so there's method to it, but there's a lot of people who be like, that's tax avoidance. It really isn't. You're going to pay the tax. You're just paying it at a later date.
Just kicking the can down the road.
Exactly. That's all you're doing, kicking that can down the road. Now, obviously, none of this is advice in any form, and not every jurisdiction is the same, so make sure that you do seek advice when it comes to your tax management through a really good accountant. They're hard to find. Apparently we have several, Nick, in the comments of YouTube telling me that we earn far too much money, and I've always wondered where that accountant went when I asked for a cup of tea.
And was it coffee? Was it tea?
Tea
I think
coffee?
It was coffee. Who knows?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everyone seems to be an accountant on the YouTube comment section. We earn far too much. We should be doing everything for free, and we should definitely not be charging for our time.
Basically, if you guys have took nothing from what we just spoke about, you've lost money in this bear market. All you have to tell everyone is you've done the next bull run correctly because you lost money in the bear market and you're offsetting your tax for the next year. Think about it logically, guys.
Exactly. Like I look at my portfolio and there's a big grin on my face because the holdings are higher coin numbers, right? But the overall number, like fiat, is down. I've done the job right, and that's kind of how I look at it. I'm sure you're the same, Nick.
Oh, I'm absolutely the same. Like coin positions, token positions grow, and dollar values decrease. That is doing it right because you're going to be able to offset all those losses in the bull market. And you've got so much more gains because you've got more coin.
And I will point everybody to my video where I did an example of this. Without saying it was an example of this, I sold all my ADA. Go look it up on the main channel. have a laugh at the comments.
Go into the comment section for
have
sure.
A laugh with the comments of all these people telling me that I was wrong and I was going to regret it. And all of that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, I think that is time well spent. But that is a great way to improve your position. So there we go. So I'm thinking now we'll have final words before we wrap up. So I'm going to go over to JB. What are your final words?
Before I do say my final
today.
words,
for today. They're not your final words ever.
That was a bit bleak.
Yeah, it sounds very bleak. Just for today. You'll be
before I
back
do my
tomorrow.
final words, like I don't know. I'm assuming you guys have heard about this thing, Prime, the juice that's out, KSI and Logan Paul.
I thought you meant Prime as in Amazon, but yeah, okay.
Oh, that thing you used to get Twitch.
Yeah.
For Twitch subs, we can get subscribers up. Yeah, if you have got Prime, get on the Twitch channel, guys. But we managed to try Prime, the juice.
Oh my word! Was it 25 quid?
No, my mother-in-law has a shop and they had the stuff in. First of all, this is disgusting. I don't know why you guys are jumping at the chance to try and get it. It's horrible. They're feeding this to kids. It's full of BCAAs. This is the kind of stuff I use before I go and train at the gym. Why the hell are they feeding this stuff to kids? I digress. If you guys are trading, have a nice stop loss, make great gains, stay safe in the space, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.
Yeah, and what about yourself, Nick?
Yeah, I kind of echo a lot of what JB just said there.
Have you not got no Prime for your trading sessions? No,
I've got BCAAs though. For the trading sessions, you've got to have those in your system, right? No, on all serious note, like I'm still expecting a lot of volatility. I don't think the bottom is in yet, and we've got to have a lot more turbulence in this market. Pain hasn't been reached, like extreme pain where the retailers are selling, and I'm still expecting those retailers to sell, and I think it's going to happen in 2023. Can't say when. Could be 3 months, could be 6 months, could be 9 months, but at some point in this year, a lot of retail investors are going to be forced into selling their positions just to be able to survive, I feel. So that to me is a positive, because that means that we're going to be some cheap assets to buy further down the line. And obviously someone else's pain is potentially your gain if you're on the right side of it. So just kind of, be optimistic when you should, and be pessimistic when you should.
Awesome. Talking about pain, like I feel real pain in my ankle. It's so painful. From when I tripped in Manchester, I'm sure it's broken. It's so painful.
You need to get yourself some Cardano, so you go over to Charles Hoskinson's clinic and get yourself checked out there.
Well, yeah, exactly. Maybe I'll nip on by. Charles, if you're watching, maybe I'll be there. Who knows? But my final thoughts, I guess, is the fact that I align with both of what you've both said. I don't think that the bottom is in just yet. I think we've got some volatile times ahead. And it's going to be interesting to see whether people align with our thoughts about the flippening of BTC. So I'm looking forward to reading through the comments. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I know you enjoyed it. Mash up that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, tapping that bell, selecting all the notifications so you never miss another podcast. And you know what? JB, Nick, myself, we'll catch you in the next one.